Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive. Today we're tackling something that might seem a little unexpected, maybe even a bit paradoxical. We're going on a quest for reincarnation.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, but here's the twist, we're looking for it in the Bible.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Most people associate reincarnation with Eastern philosophies, not exactly Sunday school material, right?
Exactly. So you might be thinking, hold on, isn't that a little contradictory?
That's what makes this so fascinating, right? The concept of reincarnation, it's been around for centuries, popping up in tons of spiritual traditions,
Yeah.
including, and this is key, early Jewish and Christian thought. It's just that certain interpretations kind of took center stage while others got, let's say, tucked away.
Right, tucked away in the back shelves of history.
Exactly.
And that's where we come in, right? Today, we're pulling out one of those dusty old books and shining a light on those hidden interpretations. Get ready for some aha moments.
I'm ready.
Okay, so our guidebook for this deep dive. Excerpts from Allan Kardec's The Gospel According to the Spirit.
Oh, Kardec. A fascinating figure.
Now, for those who need a quick refresher, Allan Kardec was this 19th century French scholar who got really into communicating with spirits.
Right, he was a pioneer in the field of Spiritism.
And he ended up creating the whole system of Spiritism as we know it today.
And Spiritism, at its core, believes in reincarnation, the idea that souls keep coming back to Earth in new bodies to learn, grow, that whole thing. What's super interesting about Kardec, though, is that he went digging for proof of this idea within the Bible itself.
So that's our mission today, to see the Bible through Kardec's Spiritist lens. Think of it as a biblical scavenger hunt.
I like that.
With Kardec leading the way, pointing out clues we might have missed before. We'll be looking at how he interprets certain passages, figures John the Baptist, Elijah, heck, even Jesus himself.
It's amazing how certain figures and stories that seem so familiar can suddenly take on a whole new meaning when you look at them from a different perspective.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to see these Bible stories in a whole new light. A good place to start is all the chatter in the Gospels about people wondering if Jesus was John the Baptist, Elijah, or like another prophet come back to life.
That's right. It's like right off the bat, the Gospels hint that reincarnation was already a concept floating around among the Jewish communities back then.
And there's this one passage that Kardec totally latches onto. It's where Jesus says, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him. Kardec sees this as a direct connection, pointing to John the Baptist as Elijah reincarnated.
It's a bold interpretation, but when you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
It does. Right. Okay, now I know what some folks might be thinking. Hold on, doesn't that sound more like Elijah just resurrected in the same body?
Yeah, that's a common counterargument.
Yeah.
But Kardec addresses that head on.
He does.
He points out the obvious. John the Baptist had his own parents, his own childhood. He couldn't literally be the same guy as Elijah.
Makes sense. So Kardec's drawing a clear distinction between resurrection, where it's the same physical body coming back, and reincarnation, where it's the soul inhabiting a brand new body.
Right. It's a crucial distinction. It's a distinction he carries through all of his analysis. It leads us to another passage, and this one is a real brain twister. It's Jesus' famous line to Nicodemus, "No one can see the kingdom of God unless he is born again."
Yes, the born again passage, the one that's caused endless debates and interpretations. But for Kardec, it's pretty clear evidence for reincarnation.
He hones right in on the wording, born again of water and the spirit. Kardec says water represents the material body, and of course spirit is the soul.
So to Kardec, born again means the soul taking on a new physical body. And if you're born again, well, logic dictates you were born before. Right there, boom, past lives.
Pretty neat how he connects those dots, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a puzzle coming together. He even claims that early translations of the Bible actually supported his interpretation. He says the phrase Holy Spirit was added later, which changed the original meaning.
That's a bold statement. It makes you wonder how translations and interpretations can shape our understanding of these ancient texts.
Right. It makes you think. Now, Kardec doesn't just stick to the New Testament in his reincarnation hunt. He heads straight into the Old Testament, too, zeroing in on a passage from Isaiah. Those of your people who have been made to die shall live again.
Interesting choice.
It is. So Kardec points out that live again strongly suggests a return to life, not just, hanging out as a spirit somewhere. He says this points to reincarnation coming back to life on Earth after death. He also digs into the Book of Job, which, fun fact, has several different translations, each with subtle changes in the wording.
Oh, I didn't realize that about Job. That's fascinating.
It is. And what's wild is that each version, even with its little tweaks, seems to hint at the possibility of living again after death, like returning to earthly life in some form. For Kardec, finding these echoes of reincarnation in both the Old and New Testaments is a major win. It suggests that the idea is woven into the very fabric of the Bible, not just some random side belief.
It's like he's saying, look, it's been here all along, but then, this question pops up.
Yeah.
If we're constantly being reborn into new bodies, new families, what happens to all those relationships? Does it just become a giant tangled mess?
Yeah, exactly. Does reincarnation basically make all our relationships meaningless if we're always forming new ones in each lifetime?
That's a natural concern. But Kardec tackled it head on. He argues that reincarnation, instead of weakening those bonds, actually makes the true spiritual connections even stronger.
Really?
Souls who have truly loved each other in past lives, they're drawn back to one another. They choose to reincarnate together to help each other on this whole journey of growth and evolution.
So according to Kardec, it's not just random chaos. Reincarnation actually creates what he calls spiritual families.
Exactly. These souls are connected across lifetimes, bound by ties that go way deeper than blood or marriage.
So it's less about expanding your family tree infinitely and more about strengthening the real deep connections.
Precisely. Think about it. This is a very different viewpoint from the idea that when we die, that's it for our relationships, even in heaven. No guarantee of reunion or anything.
It really makes you think about the nature of family and love in a whole new way.
It certainly challenges us to consider those deeper, maybe even eternal connections we have with certain people.
It does. And speaking of challenges, if reincarnation isn't about being punished, what's the point of all these rebirths? What's the big goal here?
I'm glad you asked that. If it's not about punishment, what is it about? What's the purpose? Well, Kardec believes that incarnation is crucial for the soul's evolution. It's not about suffering for the sake of suffering, like some cosmic punishment. Each lifetime is like a classroom. It's a chance to learn and grow through all the experiences we have here in the physical world.
So it's like each lifetime throws a new set of lessons our way, and how we react to those lessons, how we grow from them, shapes our spiritual progress.
Exactly. It's about learning to make choices, choices that align with our highest good, the good of others, and sometimes those choices are tough, even painful. But according to Kardec, they all fit into this big, grand design, leading us towards our ultimate spiritual evolution.
So each lifetime is like a unique curriculum, a custom-designed course for the soul, refining it through all those ups and downs. And sometimes we may even choose to reincarnate on the same world multiple times to really work through specific issues or karmic debts from past lives.
Like taking a summer school course to really nail down a difficult subject.
Exactly. It's like getting extra credit to make sure we really master those lessons. And you know what? It kind of takes some of the pressure off, don't you think? We don't have to get absolutely everything perfect in this one go-around.
I agree. It definitely provides a sense of perspective. And speaking of perspective, Kardec also delves into how spirits evolve from having these dense physical bodies to existing in a more ethereal form as they become more purified.
Okay, so less bound to the physical, more like pure energy. What a concept. What does Kardec say about what that kind of existence might be like?
He does touch on that.
He does.
Remember that excerpt where the spirits themselves discuss the limitations of being in a physical body? They talk about these highly evolved spirits who inhabit worlds where their forms are less dense, less material. They become more like, I don't know how else to put it, spiritual beings, energy beings.
Okay, so less bound to the physical, more like pure energy. What a concept. What does Kardec say about what that kind of existence might be like?
He suggests that as spirits evolve, their perception of reality shifts too. They're less restricted by the limits of time and space as we know them, becoming more attuned to spiritual realities.
So they can perceive things that go beyond what our current physical senses can pick up on. I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
It's a fascinating concept to consider, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it connects back to that idea that our understanding of reality is constantly evolving alongside our spirits.
Would you say that this ethereal existence is the ultimate goal then?
In a sense, yes. But it's not a static endpoint. Kardec believed that even the most evolved spirits continue to learn and grow, just in different ways and on different planes of existence.
So it's like this never-ending journey of spiritual discovery. There's always something more to learn, more to experience, no matter how far you've come.
Exactly. There's always more to become.
That's exciting and a little daunting at the same time. But it's also a reminder that we're never truly stuck. We have the potential to keep growing even if it takes multiple lifetimes to reach our full potential.
And remember, Kardec emphasizes that we're not alone in this journey. We have the guidance and support of those more evolved spirits, as well as the connections we form with souls who are journeying alongside us.
It makes you wonder what kind of role those relationships play in this whole reincarnation cycle, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And Kardec has a lot to say about that. Let's delve into the idea of karmic resolution now. It's a concept that he brings up quite a bit when discussing those connections we make across lifetimes.
Okay, karmic resolution. That sounds intriguing. What exactly does Kardec mean by that?
It's not about punishment for things you did in a past life, but rather about understanding the energetic imbalances that our actions can create and working to restore harmony in our present relationships.
So let's say you did something in a past life that created a kind of energetic debt. In this life, you might encounter situations or relationships that give you a chance to learn from that and create a more balanced energy.
Precisely. It's about recognizing those patterns and learning to make different choices.
Yeah.
Imagine encountering someone in this life who evokes really strong emotions in you, either positive or negative. That could be a sign that there's a deeper karmic connection at play, something that needs to be addressed or resolved for both souls to move forward.
That makes you think about all the complex dynamics in our relationships, doesn't it? Maybe that coworker who drives you crazy or that friend who always seems to push your buttons. Maybe those connections have a karmic root.
It's certainly a possibility to consider, and Kardec emphasizes that these types of relationships are rarely easy. They often involve those challenges and conflicts that force us to really look at ourselves and our limitations.
So those difficult relationships, the ones that really test us, could actually be seen as opportunities for growth in disguise. They're nudging us toward evolving, even if it feels uncomfortable in the moment.
Exactly. It's all part of the process, the grand design of spiritual development. And according to Kardec, we actually choose to enter into these challenging relationships, even if we don't consciously remember making that choice on a soul level.
You're saying we choose to have that ex who broke our hearts, or that parent who was really tough on us? That's a bit hard to swallow.
I know it might sound strange at first, but from a spiritual perspective, it begins to make sense. Those challenging relationships provide the friction we need to smooth out our rough edges, to learn valuable lessons about love, forgiveness, compassion, and setting healthy boundaries.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's like this giant cosmic puzzle where each piece represents a soul and all of their intricate connections, and each lifetime we live adds another piece to that puzzle.
And each lifetime reveals a bit more about ourselves and how we relate to others. Kardec often talks about spiritual families. I'd like to hear what you think about that. How do you reconcile this idea of spiritual families with the thought that our relationships are constantly changing and evolving across lifetimes?
It's a concept I've been grappling with myself, especially while diving into Kardec. It makes you wonder if we're encountering some of the same souls across multiple lifetimes. Does that mean we're bound to them forever, even if those relationships were difficult or painful in the past?
That's a question many people have. It's natural to wonder if we're destined to repeat the same patterns over and over. But Kardec actually believed that the nature of those relationships changes as we evolve.
So the dynamic between two souls isn't fixed, it's fluid.
Exactly. As we learn lessons, resolve those energetic imbalances, and develop greater compassion, the karmic ties between souls can start to loosen. It creates space for healthier and more harmonious connections.
So there's hope then, for those of us who might be carrying some, let's say, challenging baggage from past lives. We're not doomed to repeat the same difficult dynamics forever.
Absolutely not. The beauty of reincarnation, as Kardec saw it, is that it offers infinite possibilities for growth and transformation. It's never too late to learn to heal, to forgive, and to create new, more positive patterns in our relationships.
That's reassuring. It takes the pressure off of having to get it perfect in this lifetime. It gives us a wider perspective to consider as we navigate our connections with others.
And it encourages us to take responsibility for our choices and actions, knowing that they have a ripple effect, not just in this life, but in future incarnations as well. Remember, we're not just talking about what happens after we die. It's about how we live right now, knowing that our actions and relationships have an impact that goes far beyond what we might realize.
This whole reincarnation thing, as explained by Kardec, really does change the game, doesn't it? It's like looking through a new lens, one that reveals a more expansive view of life and our purpose here.
Precisely. It invites us to live more consciously, with greater awareness and compassion, to make choices that align with our true spiritual purpose.
So knowing all of this, how does Kardec suggest we approach life and our relationships? Does he offer any practical advice?
He definitely emphasizes the importance of personal responsibility and striving for moral improvement. It's about treating each other with kindness, understanding, and forgiveness, recognizing that we're all on this journey of evolution together.
That's good advice, regardless of whether you embrace reincarnation or not. But it takes on even deeper meaning when you consider that we might be encountering some of these same souls across multiple lifetimes, working through our lessons together.
It highlights the significance of every interaction. Each act of kindness or unkindness has an effect that ripples outward. It encourages us to be more mindful of our choices and actions, to approach every encounter with compassion and a sense of shared purpose. Remember, our deep dive into Kardec's interpretations is just one perspective on a topic that is vast and complex. It's an invitation to explore, to ask questions, and to deepen your understanding of spirituality and the nature of existence.
And this journey of exploration doesn't end here. Keep those minds open and those hearts curious. There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more ways to connect with the mystery and wonder of life.
And before we wrap up, I have to ask, how have Kardec's ideas resonated with you personally? Have they shifted your own perspective on life and relationships at all?
Honestly, diving into Kardec's work has been like opening a new door in my mind. It's given me a fresh perspective on why certain people come into my life, why some relationships are effortless while others are filled with challenges. It's like I'm starting to see the threads of connection that weave through it all.
That's beautifully put. And I think that sense of interconnectedness is a key takeaway for our listeners as well. It's not just about whether you believe in reincarnation or not. It's about taking those core principles of kindness, compassion, and understanding and applying them to your life.
Knowing that our choices and actions have far-reaching consequences, that we're all in this together, evolving and growing alongside one another, I think that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. Let's leave it there for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It really is mind-blowing when you think about it. All these threads, Bible passages, reincarnation, the nature of our relationships, they all come together in Kardec's work.
That's what makes his perspective so powerful. That interconnectedness. It all circles back to something we touched on earlier, spiritual families. And I'm really curious to get your take on this. How do you reconcile this idea of spiritual families with the thought that, our relationships are always evolving throughout our lifetimes?
It's a question I've been pondering a lot myself as we've been exploring Kardec. If we keep encountering some of the same souls over and over in different lifetimes, does that mean we're, stuck with them? Even if those relationships were, difficult, maybe even painful in the past?
The question a lot of people ask. It makes sense to wonder if we're just destined to keep repeating the same old patterns, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Are we bound to these souls no matter what?
But Kardec, he didn't see it as this fixed, unchangeable thing. He believed those relationships, they can transform, evolve as we grow.
So there's hope then. We're not stuck in some cosmic replay of bad relationships.
Not at all. What's beautiful about reincarnation, according to Kardec, is that it offers us unlimited chances to grow and change. It's never too late to learn, to heal those old wounds, to forgive, and to create healthier patterns in our relationships.
It feels like a huge relief knowing that we have more power than we think to shift those karmic connections.
And that brings us right back to what Kardec stressed so much. Personal responsibility. He didn't think understanding reincarnation should make us passive. It should empower us to make conscious choices, knowing those choices have effects, not just in this life, but in future lives too.
It's not just about the afterlife. It's about living right now, understanding that our actions, our relationships, they have a much bigger impact than we might realize.
Exactly. It encourages us to be more aware, to live with more intention, more compassion, knowing we're all connected and part of this huge unfolding journey of evolution.
Kardec's view really does offer a whole new way of looking at life, our purpose here, our relationships. It makes you wonder, what kind of practical advice did he offer, for actually living in alignment with these principles?
He emphasized personal growth, always striving to be better. He believed that treating each other with compassion, understanding, and forgiveness, those were key. We're all on this journey together.
That's great advice no matter what you believe, really. But it becomes even more powerful when you consider that we might be journeying with some of the same souls across lifetimes, working through these lessons together.
Every interaction takes on more weight.
Right. Every little act of kindness, or unkindness for that matter, has this ripple effect that goes way beyond the moment.
It's an invitation to be present, to approach every encounter with a sense of shared purpose, with compassion, This deep dive into Kardec's interpretations, it's been eye-opening, thought-provoking.
It really has.
It's one interpretation, of course, a unique perspective on a massive, complex topic. But it reminds us that there are so many ways to understand spirituality, the nature of existence itself. The important thing is to stay curious, keep asking questions, exploring different ideas with an open mind.
And our exploration doesn't end here. We hope this deep dive has given you some new things to think about as you continue your own journey of discovery.
We'll leave you with this. Keep those minds open, keep those hearts compassionate, and never stop seeking understanding. Thanks for joining us today.